going to start off with, this was maybe the slowest but most stressful action film I've ever seen.
Thanks.
Logistically, what was the most challenging scene?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think in some ways the scooter chase in
Mm,
the
in
senior
the
living
home? Yeah.
facility was one of the more like kind of logistically complicated sequences, just because those scooters go up to like 30 miles an hour. We ended up putting a limiter on them because that would have been insane. But they are mobility scooters, but they felt like a little bit sportier than that, and so for them like driving down the halls and knocking into each other and pushing each other back, there were just a lot of elements there to coordinate that we at first were sort of racking our brains to figure out the best way to do it. And luckily, because June was so good at the scooter, she ended up doing a lot of that herself with the help of our stunt team. So that was a real gift to the production. But that shoot was definitely one of the more like logistically daunting sequences to get done quickly.
Oh, I can only imagine. What about emotionally?
Ooh, emotionally. Emotionally and a little bit logistically, I'd say I think the scene where she's on the ground at night in
Oh,
the dirt.
yeah.
That was just sort of like, we were shooting late at night and we were, outside, and there were moments there where we were like, oh my God, like what are we doing? We're making June lie down and on this patch. I mean, she had a pad under her that was, and many comforts as were possible in that environment. And she was such a trooper. But I think that sequence is just, it's a low point in the movie, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking in its own right to shoot, and just felt sort of sad, but we got through it.
I mean, as it should. You made a
Yeah,
nonagenarian get on the ground in a parking lot.
I
How
know it makes
dare you?
makes you think. It makes you think.
Yeah.
A lot of shame.
What do you admire most about the character of Thelma?
I think her perseverance, just her like kind of unabashed like grit, that she just doesn't take no for an answer when there's something she cares about and there's something that means something to her. She'll kind of go to the ends of the earth to fight for that thing. And so I think that's something I admire for sure.
The ends of the earth or the ends of the valley, like,
Yeah, which
which might as well be.
might as well be, honestly.
Right. So what changed the most between the first version of the story percolating in your brain versus the version we saw on screen?
Probably the crystallizing of the Thelma Daniel arcs
Ooh.
in how they kind of mirror each other. I think
Mhm.
that was always kind of in the DNA of it, but I think that got a lot sharper over the course of many drafts and many sort of, development tinkering sessions with my producers Zoe and Chris. I think we just, when you're writing a character that's yourself, it's like the scenes feel really natural and come easily, but the arc sometimes you need to like zoom out a little bit or just like have another perspective on it to make sure the things you think are reading in there are actually reading to an audience. And so I'd say just the crystallization of that and the way those kind of work as mirrors, I think got a lot more elegant like over the course of the development of the script.
Yeah, because it's Thelma's story, but it really also feels like in a way his slash yours,
Yeah,
obviously, and they have
it's
a
like
relationship
inevitably,
together. Yeah.
totally, the POV
Yeah.
is inevitably going to be like hers to a point, but inevitably his to a degree because I'm writing it and I'm thinking about my grandma and
Yeah.
and making it. So it's going to be infused with that.
Obviously it's a story about the grandma and of course parents, and I am really curious, was there ever a moment in your relationship with your parents which was catalytic for you realizing like I'm the adult now, or is it still like a parent child dynamic?
No, I'd say, it's hard to pinpoint an exact moment, but I think I've always been very close with my parents and still am, but it's like I think something about, you reach a certain point in your 20s where you start to feel like, wait a minute, like maybe there are things that I might believe that are like slightly different than what you believe, even if we generally kind of, share so much and have a lot of shared values and qualities. It's like it's hard to pinpoint a moment exactly, but I do feel like over the course of my 20s and especially into my 30s, as someone who's always been really close with my family, I've definitely, there have been moments where I've been like, where I think they sometimes will still see me as, their kid,
Their
which why
baby
wouldn't
boy.
they? I am, but exactly, it's just a balancing act, I think. But yeah, I wish I could think of an exact moment to pinpoint for you, but nothing's jumping to mind exactly.
No, hold on to it as long as possible because
Yeah.
for me, like we started have to being the ones to like procure snacks on trips. Like we are now the
Oh,
snack.
interesting.
Yes, yeah. Like we are the ones who like dole out the snacks. I have a sister where we're just like, oh no, we're the adults now.
Like, oh my God, we're the snack people. We're the people
Yes,
making sure everybody's
yes,
drinking their water.
yes, yeah,
There
pretty
is
much.
a bit of that, I would say. There is
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
a bit of like just they're in their 70s now, and I can see just a little bit of a difference in energy and different things like that. And there's I can feel that kind of chapter arising with them. But also what's interesting is because they're the ones who are now taking care of my grandma, because my grandma's living with them.
Oh,
In a way, they are still very
right.
much the like caregivers in that
Hmm.
way. So they're kind of in that relationship with like I'd say my parents are heavily in that relationship with my mom's mom.
Got it.
And I'm sort of, over here supporting how I can, but it's interesting how that happens.
Yeah, take notes, things not to do, things to
Exactly.
watch out for.
I'm learning.
It's just a vision of the future. I love what she says about we all have our good days and our bad days. What helps make a good day for you?
A good day for me is when coffee works. Some days it does, some days it
Okay.
doesn't, because I think I'm pretty fully addicted at this point.
Okay.
But a good day for me is honestly when I get to, spend some time with friends, when I get to see a movie,
Ooh.
when I get to, obviously anytime I get to work on something I love is a good day. And sometimes those are, in a way when you work on a project like this, you're kind of working on it all the time, always. But also, it is kind of also a short burst of actually being on set and making the thing. So I'd say, a good day for me is getting to work on a movie, getting to watch a movie, and obviously, getting to spend time with my partner and close friends.
Okay, this is a perfect segue. It's a slightly broader question, but what is the first film you remember seeing in theaters that you were the impetus for going to go see? So it wasn't like your parents dragged you along, but you somehow found out about it and you're like, I must.
I think it was. I'm trying to figure out which one came first, but I think it was Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, okay. This tracks. This tracks.
Which I'm sure is not a huge surprise. But
Yes.
I remember seeing that trailer as a kid and just being
Mm.
like, this looks crazy. Like, I have to see this. And I remember at the time being so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've come back to it. And I know it's not everybody's favorite Mission Impossible movie, and I get that. But I also have still a lot of love for it because it is just such a wild swing of a movie in so many ways. But it's and so of its time. It's like
Yes.
so was it maybe late 90s, early 2000s, maybe late 90s
I think it's
actually.
late 90s.
I
Yeah.
think so too. But I have a very distinct memory of like telling my dad how much I wanted to go see that and going with him and just being obsessed with it.
Was he like, yeah, sure, this is a perfectly appropriate film for whatever age you were to go
I think he
see,
was
or
my
did he not
parents were
know?
I think it kind of lined up. I think he was like,
Okay.
okay, we can do this. This will work. Because they were, I wasn't allowed to see a lot of stuff growing up. I
Got
remember I
it.
wasn't allowed to see like Titanic.
Oh.
Like there were rules for sure about like what I could and couldn't see. And so any movie already felt very like, this is amazing. Like, oh my God, I'm seeing something. Anything that felt like not a kid's movie was like,
Got
wow,
it.
this is wild.
Yeah.
And so, it was fun. It was PG-13, so it was okay.
Did you pitch this movie to June by saying like you're gonna be the Tom Cruise of retirement homes?
To a point, I did say it's basically Mission Impossible meets Nebraska. Like that was
Yeah,
kind of my
yeah.
pitch to her, was like we're gonna take some of this kind of grounded family dramedy and find our way into something kind of like a low-key Mission Impossible in Los Angeles. So it
I
was always in there.
thank you so much. If you can't tell, I love the film. I was traumatized
Oh,
by it
thanks.
clearly, but
I really
yeah,
appreciate
thank
that.
you.